Welcome to another edition of the First and Short podcast with JJ and the Goose. The ACC got Golden Dome. Today we'll be talking about Notre Dame partially joining the ACC.
Partially, JJ, that's an understatement. They are 9/10 joining the ACC. They're joining in every sport, and they are playing 5 ACC opponents a year. That's pretty close to being an ACC member. In addition to that, they've got rights to all ACC bowl tie-ins, including the Orange Bowl. This is huge news for college football. We thought the dominoes of college realignment were over. No, sir. Notre Dame, the big domino, the big independent, is now halfway dependent on the ACC. What are your thoughts, man? What is this? How does this position the ACC going forward?
Well, I've grown up on Tobacco Road, so this is certainly a new thing for us down here. I mean, I think it's quite big that we're bringing in Notre Dame. You'll have them completely for basketball. In football, they do have to play 5 teams, but they already play Boston College. Well, they don't already play Boston College every year, but now they will start to play them again as they backed out a few years ago. So what's interesting to me is that Notre Dame, who plays all these Big Ten teams, is now deciding, we'll go join the ACC.
Yeah, I can't blame them. I think part of it is they're scared of the competition in the Big Ten. I mean, no offense to ACC fans, it's a little shallower of a league. But this is a school that prides its independence. When they joined the Big East over a decade ago, the whole playing 5 teams in football was not on the table. This was a team that prided it itself, that it got to make its own schedule, that it was an elite by itself. It had its own seat at the BCS negotiation tables. So I see this as a giant concession on Notre Dame's part, and that they're realizing that they're no longer the big machismo on the block anymore of college football, that they have to start to do what everyone else has done, and that's team up and form these mega super ultra conferences. And on the ACC side, I mean, it's good for the ACC going forward, but it is just an extension of their selling out and becoming the mega giant ultra conference of expansion over the last decade. Now up to a massive 15 teams, bigger than any league in the United States or around the world. They are obviously searching for galactic dominance as they continue to suck up every team from the Big East that they possibly can.
If you were going to take one team, quote-unquote, from the Big East, I mean, I wouldn't call them a full Big East member, obviously. If you're going to take one, there's not a better one than Notre Dame. And we've already seen that geography has nothing to do with the new conferences.
Wait. Atlantic Coast Conference, sir. That goes from the tip of Florida to the tip of Maine. So, I mean, that's a wide berth of interpretation. I say bring it on. In fact, I think a domino still coming in this whole thing is there will be another team added, probably Rutgers or Connecticut. I hope Connecticut, but for the time being, this is huge news for the ACC. But like I said, I think a bigger showing of the times for Notre Dame. I mean, again, 10, 15 years ago, this would be unthinkable for them to compromise their independence partially. I mean, it is both of these sides had to make concessions. The ACC has said they will never, it's an all or nothing proposition. Notre Dame always keeping to the fact that you can't touch their football, so it's another shift in the ever-shifting college football.
Well, they didn't give up their NBC's contract. They'll still get all their games on TV. That's not a problem. But, you know, what's interesting is they decided to join the ACC, and they didn't give up their NBC thing. And right now, we're seeing everybody really trying to get in more college football on their network. So I was actually surprised they're able to work this out, because ESPN is really trying to push this ACC network, excuse me, not ESPN, but Raycom Sports and ESPN together. And so with everybody having their own TV contracts now, just a few games on TV, but Notre Dame would get all of them on NBC. And now you're looking at everybody gets all their games on some form of TV. At worst, they're on ESPN3 online.
But not everybody gets network NBC attention like Notre Dame. That is something that is exclusive to them. And the fact that the ACC would let them keep that is a huge concession. I mean, what held up Texas joining the Pac-12 and creating the Pac-16 a few years ago was the Pac-10, refusing to allow them to keep their own network that they had just created with ESPN. So now that we've talked about football, let's take a minute to discuss the basketball implications of this. This is just another solid, very good team joining the ACC. The Notre Dame program has gotten particularly better over the last, 4 or 5 years. Consistent tournament maker, Sweet 16 noise maker. Certainly not a national championship contender, but this just adds more depth to the ACC. And I think with the additions of Syracuse and Pittsburgh, undoubtedly the ACC is squashing all Big East, ACC who's better talk. I mean, it has to be. The ACC is once again the undisputed king of college basketball. Thoughts?
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. I mean, that is absolutely what it's all about. And the ACC would love to be a better football conference, but first and foremost, we are college basketball. We really are.
You think this move had more to do with basketball than football?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But I think they would have much rather had them full. Obviously, they would have rather had them as a full member. But I don't think that Notre Dame adds that much more after you consider that we already got Syracuse and Pittsburgh.
Oh, I mean, they're definitely the third best of that trio, but it's still just another team that's going to compete for a tournament spot every year. And also, with the added teams and then the less home and aways, you're not going to have what the ACC used to have all the time when they only had 9 members, which was really good teams beating the crap out of each other, causing their records not to look as good. I mean, I think one of the reasons the Big East looks so awesome is because no one plays everybody twice.
That's true.
The fact that, you have to play at home and away at Duke, well, the only team that's going to have to do that now is Carolina. Everyone else is only going to play Duke or Carolina once a year. No one's going to have to play Syracuse twice a year except Pittsburgh. And that gives a lot of teams, the opportunity to win more games. Their record looks better. They get more bids. I mean, if you had full scheduling in the Big East, which was obviously impossible with 16 teams, you wouldn't have 12 members making the tournament. It's not possible.
You're right, and they're gonna have to accept that we're gonna lose rivalries. I mean, NC State fans were upset that they're not gonna play Carolina home and home every year. Well, they're not gonna play Carolina or Duke home and home every year. Now, almost ever now that if you think about it, if you add in a 15th team in the mix.
Yeah. And I mean, even with the extension to 18 games, I mean, it's the price of doing business in the 21st century of college sports. Go big or go home. I mean, I think the ACC has done a great done themselves a great favor to stay around, because as the Big East has shown us, just because you're a big conference today doesn't mean you'll be a big conference 5 years from now when all your members leave. And speaking of leaving, another big issue of this whole Notre Dame move that I don't think is going to get talked about enough is the new buyout cost of the ACC. JJ, give him the number.
Ooh, it's about a little more than I make a year. A cool $50 million to bounce.
Straight cash, homie.
So Florida State, Miami, I don't think you're going to the SEC anytime soon. I think you guys are going to be staying here for a little while. Might got a little fundraising to do if you want to go play with the big boys in the SEC.
$50 million.
Straight cash, homie.
Correct. That is harsh. That is unbelievable. That might be unconstitutional. I'm not sure. To leave a conference. I mean, unbelievable. I think the buyout for Notre Dame is $5 million to leave the Big East. They are cranking it up tenfold, $50 million, if you want to go to the SEC. So I agree with you. I think everyone who's an ACC member today will be an ACC member a decade from now because of that little statistic. Again, smart move by the ACC. I mean, they're seeing that college football is a volatile state right now, and everybody's jumping to the best deal possible. And you've got to do something as a conference to demand that your members will be loyal. And maybe holding a $50 million gun to their head will make them so. So, solid move by the ACC in that department.
We talked a lot about the positives of Notre Dame joining. What do you see if there's any of the negatives of Notre Dame joining the ACC?
Well, from a football side, I don't think there's any negative. I mean, the fact that they're only playing 5 games, and those games aren't even really determined, that's not going to further dilute teams playing each other, so I don't think that's a big issue. What it does, it allows 5 ACC teams to play on national television against Notre Dame every season. So it's going to create a big marquee matchups every year against, arguably and probably the most recognizable football team in America. Even though Notre Dame isn't where they were 15 years ago, everybody knows who Notre Dame is, and they're the only program, as we said earlier, that's on national network television week after week. So I see no negatives there. In basketball, even though it deepens the league, as we talked about, it's just the further diluting and teams playing each other home and home less, which creates more unbalanced schedules, which I think is really unfair to the really good teams that have to play home and homes against the other really good teams. I mean, if you're Virginia or Virginia Tech, I think this is great. You know, it doesn't get any better. You know, we don't have to play Duke twice anymore. We don't have to play Carolina twice. Awesome. But, you know, I think the positives certainly outweigh the negatives.
It'll also add one more play-in game in the ACC tournament.
So we're saying more ACC tournament. I'm a huge fan of that.
Oh, I'm certainly a huge fan. But it does that means less tickets for each team though at the tournament. So
that's okay. I can't get tickets to the university anyway, so that will affect me in no way possible. So total positive for me. And again, I really hope they add a 16th team here, and I think it will happen. I mean, maybe not this year, but Connecticut or Rutgers in the next 2 to 3 years, I would almost guarantee will be starting their exit process from the Big East.
Yeah, I agree. And so ACC getting Notre Dame, big win for our area, big win for college football, I think, and college basketball. So for Goose, I'm JJ. Thanks for listening to First and Short Podcast. We'll catch you next time.